Next up is the founder of Burning Man, an event which gathered 50 to 60,000 people in the desert in Nevada. And I'm delighted to have the founder, one of the founders, but probably the best-known founder of Burning Man, Larry Harvey. Larry? Welcome, Larry. Glad to be here. It's very nice of you for joining us in London.
Oh, you're welcome. It's good to be here. And we apparently brought the sunshine with us.
It looks like the California weather right here, yes, with you. So before we start, I thought it would be interesting to show the Spark movie about Burning Man that was or is about to be released, actually. So here's a preview, if we can have that video.
We arrived out at this vast plain. I took a stick and I drew a line on the ground. And I said, on the other side of this line, everything will be different. And everything has been different.
The place is an idea. That's so powerful and so alluring that people will go to the worst place in the world just to get a little taste of it.
It's very disconcerting in a 1 week period of time to realize that everything that you've done in your entire life could potentially be wrong.
I walked away from Burning Man going, I need to learn how to weld because I've got ideas. I still have a long ways to go.
Burning Man is a great venue to build giant stuff and blow it up.
I was terrified. It was definitely Mad Max and scared the shit out of everybody there.
So it was a question of two different visions of what it should be.
Who the fuck do you think you are, playing God over who goes to Burning Man and who does not?
What kind of a moral position is that to be in?
Large section of the community is panicked.
We owe it to them not to be panicked.
It's almost like we don't want to listen to what they're saying.
Everybody's so frazzled. We've been working on average 16-hour days. That's life out here.
You people here today are the people from this moment on that creates the framework and the cauldron that will cook their soul.
In order for us to survive on this planet, we have to engage thousands, millions of people. We have to do it. We're giving our lives to it. It's that important.
So you want to go for a ride?
So that's a full movie.
That's a full-length film. It's being previewed now around the U.S. and the world.
You thought you would be the character of a movie when you started Burning Man?
Pardon me?
Did you think you would be in a movie when you started? There would be a movie about Burning Man when you started it?
Well, maybe a movie in my head, but nothing on a screen, no.
So a Financial Times reporter called me last week and said, how come you have Larry at a tech conference? That's a good question.
Yeah, I ask myself that.
And my answer was twofold. The first one is, well, our theme is the sharing economy. And there you can see the sharing economy or even the gift economy in action for a week because there's no money at all there. No branding. No. There's no Red Bull truck and.
No, are there investors? No.
No investors.
No, none of that.
But yet there is a lot of money being thrown in the camps, right?
Oh, there's a tremendous amount of not just money, but effort that's expended. I would say 80% of easily 80% of what happens is provided by participants as a gift to everyone else there.
So did you So I would say it's the sharing economy in action, at least for a week.
Very much, yeah, robustly alive.
And that's what you wanted to create?
It's what...
Let's back up. How did you come up
with...
Well,
we emerged from a bohemian scene in San Francisco in the mid-'80s. San Francisco's good for that. And it couldn't have started in L.A. They would have wanted to know who the producer was and what stars were signed up. And whereas San Francisco is a haven for amateur efforts. And, of course, amateur means doing something for the love of it. And that's what we were doing. So we started on a beach, and as the gesture of an hour and the effort of a day. And
then you burned a man.
We burned a man. It was 2 feet taller than us, which required that we look up a little, and that's all you need. And
why did you do that?
Well, I've made up 7 or 8 stories about it because people want a myth, and they're all true. But frankly, someone asked me the other day, well, what was really on your mind? And I don't even remember. I remember calling a friend and saying, let's build a man and burn it on the beach today, and he asked me to repeat that statement. But I don't remember anything before that phone call. It's swathed in amnesia, probably because it was like so much that's creative. It just came out of the black water. It just materialized in front of me, probably largely due to subconscious processes that were going on, And you talk about the internet and the proclivity of people from Silicon Valley to come for attending it. And part of that, I think, is because Silicon Valley, the engineers there are constantly working on a frontier. They go where no one's been. And, well, the art process is like that, too. And that was our whole history, that things came out of that dark unknown, and you just have to peel your mind open like one great eyeball and wait for something a vision to, materialize.
That was my second reason that I gave to the Financial Times, was the half of Silicon Valley goes to Burning Man. Elon Musk at All Things D last week was talking about that he wants to send us to Mars in case of human extinction. But it's very likely, compared to the dinosaurs, that the human species would become extinct, and that someone had to do something about it. And so he wanted us to be able to go to Mars and emigrate in case, which I thought that was ambitious.
I suspect he's really simply trying to realize a childhood wish. And that's true of a lot of things.
So he's saying he got the idea of a number of his projects at Burning Man, attending Burning Man. And you have Sergey Brin and Larry Page, and Zuckerberg is notorious for going every year. And you're saying it's not new, right? It's been a long time. Why do you think that is? Why do you think all those tech people and startup guys and some of the camps are just Googlers?
Well, I think their culture rhymes with ours in certain ways. A lot of the work they do is project-based, and in Black Rock City, the Burning Man event, the majority of the population is engaged in working on collaborative projects that they invent and organize and then give to others, and that's a powerful incitement to effort. It's actually an economic force in a way. There's a theorist, there's a writer named Daniel Pink who says that, and this applies to Silicon Valley in particular. He says that if you at a certain point, especially when you're dealing with people who feel that they're creative something, that increasing their pay doesn't produce more innovation or more ideas. In fact, it may lessen that. He says what they really respond to are three phases of feeling that they want autonomy, to belong to themselves and feel that what is in them is a vital force that can create. They want to achieve mastery and to demonstrate their competence to others and to use their power in a way that is connective. And finally, purpose. And if you look at Silicon Valley, I think Google lets people take, 10% of their time off to pursue any project they want. And they don't dictate what that is. We don't dictate what people express at Burning Man. You know, thousands of theme camps that fill the streets in the same niche that retail outlets would here in London, you know, except at every one of them, no one's selling anything. They're giving you something. And for the sheer sake of expression and as a pure gift, something that has an unconditional value, and it's not a transaction, but socially very, very connective. And I suppose Google, you know, if they happen to do something that Google can use, then they own it, but they're not even required to do something that aligns with, you know, the profit motive. You know, they just keep it unrestricted. Well, that's very much, they show a lot of respect for creativity. So you can see why some of these folks come out to the event, because it's very like that. And, you know, and it's amazing what will happen in an environment like that. When everyone is united in giving to a gift, it tends to resource, it creates social networks. Some of those artworks at our event, there are armies behind, 300 people working on one project. And not only working on one project, but very oftentimes other artist groups are doing ambitious things by their own inspiration and are sharing equipment with them. And if we don't fund one year, all the people who are involved in that project go over and work for another project.
You fund some of them yourself?
Oh yeah, we give out. If you count, in addition to the grant money, if you count the technical support, it's, you know, well over $1 million that we do. But that's a fraction of what's.
Do you have any idea of a whole?
A fraction. Most of it is from gifts.
It's huge.
That people get. People fundraise on the internet. A whole patron class has come along.
Do you have an idea of how much money goes total into the? Because it's probably the largest crowdsourcing. It's
hard to trace and it's hard to chart. We really ought to try to do that sometime. It would be an interesting statistic. But I can assure you that all that's given, in some ways, dwarfs what we contribute.
Tell me about the fact that I'm sorry.
When you link people communally that way, there's nothing like a gift to attach people to one another, and
then you burn it.
And then we burn it, yeah. Which sort of underlines the point of it, is that it wasn't even for it. It was the very impulse to give. It's unconditional.
You think it's important that it's temporary? Because some of the art structures are really amazing.
Oh, anymore we encourage them to do durable things, because now we have communities around the world, and we formed an organization that we're going to give the event to. I'm one of the owners of the event. We're going to give it away to the nonprofit.
Are you a guru, Larry?
Gracious, no.
Because when you go there, there is this huge temple. And you get into the temple and everybody's crying.
Oh, that's because of the temple itself. Yes.
What is this about? So is it a religion? Did it happen also without you?
I wouldn't call it a religion, but I think it has, if you look at the temple, it's a sacred space. It acts like a sacred space. People respond to it as a sacred space. It is a sacred space. Pragmatically considered, yes, it's sacred. Watch the behavior. People get within 40 yards of these temples, And it's conditioned by, they now have some context for the experience, and they know it's dedicated to those who've died, and is a place of meditation and succor for those who grieve their losses. But really, it's the temples are often designed in a form bilaterally symmetric, the sacred architecture, and within 40 yards, people lower their voices. No one told them to do that.
Well, so you move from a...
They're whispering by the time they walk in. No one told them to do that, ever. You know, it's the actions of an entire community that casts a spell, that instills a spirit.
But you walk literally from a bus like Robert Hart, where it's a huge party, basically, and you walk from there to the temple. And in like 5 minutes, you go from a huge party with thousands of people partying, dancing, and DJing, and into people crying in a temple.
Right. Well, that's what cities are for, and there's an ample allowance for liberty at Burning Man. We believe in radical self-expression, and that can comprehend nearly anything. And as long as people realize that in expressing themselves as a gift, and in giving a gift, you should respect the rights of those you're giving it to. So if your form of a gift is a giant speaker, and it's 4 a.m., and some poor soul's cringing in their tent, that's not a gift. But you can straighten these things out in any community.
Can you explain what is it that you're trying to do, Larry? Because you're... in the movie here, you can see people saying it's that important, that we want it all around the world. And so what is it that you're trying to do, and why is it that important that you come to London and that you have Burning Man-like events all around the world? If you're not a guru, what is it that you're trying to do?
No, I'm not a guru. I'm not a swami. I'm not an oracle. What we're trying to do, what we've discovered is that out of this event, an ethos has emerged. We didn't start with an ideology. We've never had one as such. But some years ago, as people left the event and began recreating the culture in the world, a call rose up to somehow furnish folks with a guide that, as I understood it, essentially addressed what our values were, and I was at least situated enough to think about that since I'd been...
Can you explain those values?
I'd been at Burning Man from the beginning, and
right, by definition.
And explain them. Well, there are 10 values. When I originally wrote them...
Can you go through them?
I came back to the committee room at the office, having gone to Mexico, to write them in a Zocalo on a laptop. And brandished the document and said, I've got the 9 principles. And somebody said, shouldn't there be 10? So I went home and wrote the 10th. The principles are not prescriptive. They describe the actions and the feelings that have emerged from action. That's sort of what I was saying about the temple. It's all about action, and act and with all your heart, and your mind will follow. And radical self-expression. They're rather simple things. I don't want to list them all. People can look them up on our website. What's really important is that the community in this diaspora that issued out and continues to populate the world found them very useful because it allowed them to talk to other people who wanted to do things together, and it allowed people to organize just so that ours is a community that's notoriously anti-authoritarian, you know. Autonomy is very big on people's list of things that are...
Why don't you want any branding there, any marketing, and any money?
Well, why? Because we live in a world. First, we did it instinctively. Because it was a small community, and to introduce commerce into that just felt incongruous and distasteful. If you had a family picnic, you wouldn't want someone vending food at it. But as time went along, we realized that looked at it in a more positive way, that the lack of vending, we'd gone out there, struggled to survive together. Everybody shared resources. It bonded people to one another. Real community issues out of shared struggle to survive, not just, kumbaya and love. And so then we realized that then we banned commercial transactions because we realized that the gift had a power to generate a new kind of wealth. I mean, very literally. In a community, if something's needed, and if everyone's giving to something more than themselves, it's like a chimney, and the bigger the gift, the taller the chimney, the more draft it has, and the more resources it attracts. Everybody fans out, and they find they have friends who have friends, and if that person wants to give to the gift, they're instantly included. That's one of our values, radical self-inclusion. Everyone says, well, come on in, you're one of us. It's because of that flow of the gift through people. It has enormous power to not only create serial communion, but also to organize resources. It's really quite
And you think this
amazing.
can be applied to more than a week in the desert?
Yeah, I think it can. I think what we have now is, especially in organizing this larger organization whose mission is to take those values as defined by the 10 principles and promulgate them wherever they might or have or do appear in the world, and that's our simple gauge. And we tell people, at least lately I tell people, that we're just building a platform which will help the community communicate with itself and help resources flow through it. But it's that impulse to give that's going to drive that flow, of course. All we've done in the desert all these years is a form of husbandry. The advent of culture is like a natural, it's like an act of nature. We're adapted to create. We're adapted to create it. We just forgot how over the last 100 years. But so we feel that. That we can aid that to happen, and we say that the project is like a platform, to use a cyber metaphor, like a platform, but every single person who encounters our culture by coming to our event and now immersive events all over the world, has the potential to interject those values and then become their own application. It's up to them to figure out what they want to express and what they want to do. But if they use these values, then they'll become their own damn app.
Which is pretty similar to when people create open source software.
That's right.
You're talking like software applications.
But this is sort of in the moral, cultural, spiritual side of the ledger. Yeah.
I'll take a few questions, so get ready if you have a question. But let's talk about the dark sides a little bit. I see too that you actually one which is featured in the film is that your success exceeds your capacity to manage it. So there is a shortage of tickets.
Well, it's not our capacity to manage it, and we've actually grown in increments. We take on more population in our city in absorbable bites. We've never wanted to double overnight. Ever seen a city that doubled overnight? It's not pretty. And
so you make it grow this year again?
Oh, yes, we'll grow this year, as a matter of fact. We haven't announced that, but we have an understanding with the federal government that we can increase our population.
But you know that people who bought tickets spend 4 hours in front of a computer to get one, and many of them didn't.
Well, you see, the problem wasn't that it wasn't with the social coherence or our organization of things. It was It was simply that demand exceeded supply in terms of tickets. And, but that's really exciting to me because one thing that happened, as I say, there are events around the globe that have, they're not franchises, we don't own them, we advise them, they're part of our network if they honor the principles. Now we're working to elaborate that. And what happened after the tsunami of demand hit our shore, and because frankly now we're you know, it's really funny, we're an event of about 60,000, somewhere between 60 and 70,000 people, and which is smaller than the
if you opened everything,
Ohio State Fair, and yet everybody everywhere knows about it, and it's become the signature of what's cool. And I have to believe that's because we're authentic in certain ways, that people, and they crave a certain kind of authenticity. In any case, the demand that hit us then drained down the shingle and gave rise to waves in these island events that people have founded all over the world, and they started selling out, which is very exciting because now let's work together and confederate. And if one Burning Man is known all over the place, then what happens if there are 50 of them? Let's get ready for the middle of this century, because someone's going to need to be ready for it. I think we qualify for that.
And we have Bitcoin this afternoon, which people are trying to do a new currency. So, any question for Larry? Right there.
Hi, thank you. I was wondering if you'd been to any of these Burning Man-like events outside of Black Rock City, and what do you think of them?
I've been to a few. I'll confess, I'm the apostle of immediacy and participation, and I haven't been to very many of them. I'm really good at imagining things I haven't experienced. But a lot of the people around me have. And in fact, we're very interested in that. And as I say, to be part of our network, then we require that they closely align with our values. And we have the 10 principles, and our mission statement says nothing less than all of these 10 principles combined will really do. I cribbed that from Aldous Huxley. And so we look for this organic fit that in its as an interrelated whole represents a coherent vision, we feel, of a way of life that could be applied in hundreds of ways. And those organizations that are part of that network are we're quite happy with. Now we're just looking for more things that are like us, whether they're in our lineage or not. And so, you know, our work is taking us around the world to see if we can, Empress, we can.
And you're making it very difficult. Like if you come with a camera, a professional digital camera, they ask you to tag it. It feels like the World Economic Forum in some ways, where you.
Well, we do. We do that. We've always been. Well, that's the interesting thing. We've always been sort of protective of intellectual property. I'm following my good friend who just spoke,
John Perry Barlow.
John Perry Barlow, and we did it because we didn't want. You know, so often in our world, cultural trends. Culture organically organizes itself in some context, usually in communities that have to struggle and that communities are situated in certain ways that a coherent way of life begins to form and uniquely expressive things occur. And then what happens is they're exported up to the big grid, and then they're sent back down as an image of a way of life, as a kind of inauthentic vision of being that's dissevered from any kind of immediate experience or social reality.
So
and then that's marketed to us. People are coming to us now, and they want us to burn-wash them. That's like greenwashing and brainwashing.
So
we've always said we're a self-service.
So you want people to share among the community, but you don't want
wash your own brain.
You're trying to not have them share with the outside by not having.
We don't want our identity to be turned into an image that is in essence commodified and then used to simply make profits.
Is it because you have things you'd like to be hidden in Burning Man?
No, not at all. No,
drugs, for example, or.
No, I keep hearing about all the drugs and all the wild sex, and I wish I could find it. I think that's probably less. It is certainly a party full of wild abandon, and I think celebration is a good thing. But there are probably. Of course, we don't really condone drug use, but
there is a lot of police there now as well.
Indeed, there are who have very little to do. So we're certainly well policed in that respect, and the ledger, the record of crime in our event is remarkably modest. When you get a majority of people in any society that are engaged in participating and invested and with this teeming civic world, the margin for crime shrinks down. Crime shrinks down to the very, very small margins, at the edge. We don't have a problem with disgruntled, unemployed people. Everyone's employed in doing something and identifying with other people who are doing things. And that just naturally reduces that. So there's, for a city, compared with any municipality our size, it's a wonder. It's hardly anything. So.
Any question for Larry? It's marginal, but yet would you? And we're running out of time. But would you allow? So saying there is no Wi-Fi, there is no cell service, or if there is,
there's a little Wi-Fi anymore.
Do you want it connected that everybody?
Well, no, we don't particularly want cell service. A company came out and erected a little tower off the playa.
Yes.
And but their capacity to process the information got absolutely overwhelmed, and we're about, one of the principles is immediacy, and I really don't want to go to a circle where people gathered around a fire as they were on the beach so many years ago, and the light of that fire reflected in all their eyes as they talked to one another, and hear someone on their phone saying, "Oh, what's this burn? This burn, I'd give it about a 7. What's your burn?" I'll go over there. And
Google Glass, Larry?
That's my satirical midget voice.
The glass that record and send pictures, which I have.
What's that?
The Google Glass? Was glass?
Oh, yeah.
Would you allow people with Google Glass in Burning Man?
Oh, I don't know. It isn't really marketed yet. I haven't thought about it.
Well, Sergey and Larry are coming, so I guess you can.
Well, he wore them out there.
Yes,
he was
Sergey
field testing
has them all the time.
I think I can say that much. But no, I don't know. I don't have any opinion about that at this point. We certainly allow people to film and take photographs. But we do license cameras at the same time because we don't want to wake up the next morning and find out that someone is using images of our event to sell goods.
Right.
And to say you can be a burner if you buy this product, because you can't. And that would be a lie, and it would. It's not that we're jealous of our intellectual property because we want to flog it in the market. We don't, never have. We don't have any product line. But we certainly don't want them to do it. And we've managed to stop, large concerns who wanted to do that in their tracks. One thing, here's a good thing about the gift economy. You can get a lot of really first-rate lawyers volunteering their services. And another advantage of the gift economy, free lawyers. I mean, I ask you, that's kind of a wonder.
To finish, since we're out of time, Larry, you have an international audience here, about 40 countries. You have this mission and and trying to spread it around the world. How can engage if they haven't yet and help or launch a Burning Man-like event in their countries?
Well, they should talk to us, and we're eager to talk to them. And we're doing two things at once. We're trying to organize the center of the new organization and to centralize for purposes of communication and education, so that we can cause art and cause knowledge and to flow throughout, a global network. And at the same time, we're rushing to decentralize so that we can talk to people who want to do things and be aware of what's happening out there, because it's what the people will invent. We're not the creators of the content. We construct the social circumstance that gives rise to this phenomenon, and it is an emergent phenomenon. So we won't be happy until for every person who comes to our event, there's a possible application for all of those 10 principles combined, to be applied to something. We've seen much evidence of it. Things you'd be amazed that don't sound like they'd never come out of Mardi Gras. They never come out of any ordinary party, and thousands and thousands, finally hundreds of thousands of people will be coming to such immersive events, ours or others, and that's when it really gets interesting, and we want to be there to help then everyone who's been affected to communicate and share resources and use the power inspired by the Burning Man on the beach was just a gift. We didn't charge admission. And we didn't contemplate a return. But look what a return it's generated. No one, as a pitch, as a business plan, at every stage of its development would have seemed insane.
No marketing campaign and no advertising for Burning Man.
We've never had a marketing department. And we haven't had to, because the word of mouth, and then the word of mouth reinforced by coverage. We asked journalists, we learned early on, we asked them to come to the event, and they'd say, okay, we want to come in, and we want to photograph the burn, and we want to talk to Larry, and then, we'll be there 2 days and we'll get out. And then Marion Goodell, my colleague, took over that and many other responsibilities, said, no, we won't help you at all. In fact, we won't even license your camera unless you want to come and stay for a few days and be part of the community. And then the journalists rediscovered the vocation that got them involved, sense of vocation that got them involved in their profession anyway. We cut them loose from their editors. We cut them loose from the advertising side of the business. They were out there alone in the desert with a bunch of other people, and who were enormously enthusiastic, and suddenly, many times they've come to us afterwards and say, this inspired us to do the best work of our career. And that over time has actually created coverage that now transcends some of the early stories that hinted darkly at Satanism and godless hippie hoedowns, in the desert.
Well, thank you very much, Larry, and good luck for the hundreds of thousands of people thinking differently that you're encouraging?
Well, it's a good start.
It's a great start, yes. Thank you, Larry.